What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Criterion Corner. This is the segment on my channel where I talk about films in the Criterion Collection or currently streaming on the Criterion channel. And the film I'm going to be discussing today, you've probably heard of it before, and this was a hole in my horror knowledge. This is like considered one of the greatest horror films of all time, and I've never seen it before until now. And this film was released in the Criterion Collection. I do believe it's out of print now. I don't think they've re-added it into the collection, but it does exist in the Criterion Collection and it has streamed on the Criterion channel before. And obviously, before talking about this film, the director of this movie, Roman Polanski, is an incredibly problematic individual who has done some really horrible things in his life, and there's no excusing that behavior. And I think it's really interesting whenever you view someone's art who has done something terrible, because there has been a lot of people out there in our society who have made art that are really bad human beings, and there's a lot of conversations surrounding that, and it's hard for some people to digest material from bad people, and I think there is a way to separate the art from the artist, but it depends on who you are as a person, and some people can't get by that stuff, and so that's going to be different for each and every individual. And I definitely do not support Roman Polanski. I don't think he's a good human being, but I have always wanted to watch this movie and was really curious to see what it would be like. And the film I'm going to be talking about with you today is Rosemary's Baby. In Rosemary's Baby, a young couple moves into an infamous New York apartment building to start a family. Things become frightening as Rosemary begins to suspect her unborn baby isn't safe around their strange neighbors. So I was very excited to watch this movie simply because of where it stands in the history of horror and how many people love it and adore it so much. And this thing is a classic for a reason. It's a really great movie, and I have some problems with it. I don't think it's perfect. I know there's a lot of people out there who think that it is like this perfect masterpiece, and I think it's really fantastic, but I think there are some problems with it, and I'm excited to talk to you about it today. So, the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Rosemary and Guy, played by Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes, and they are a couple looking to move into a new apartment building. Guy is an actor, and they find this apartment building and they're viewing the apartment and everything's seemingly normal about it, but they find this closet that is blocked by an armoire, and they're like, why would this be in the way of like a broom closet? And they move it out of the way and they look inside and there's literally just like a broom and a dustpan in there. And even after that situation, Rosemary seems to be a little hesitant about moving there, but she's like, oh, it's still really beautiful, we might as well just move in. It's the place we've always been looking for. So the two of them decide to move in together. And shortly after, we are introduced to their neighbors, Minnie and Roman, who are this elderly couple that seem to know everyone in the building and know a lot of people around the community. And they invite them over for dinner one night. They spend a lot of time together. They're talking and having a good time. And they get back to their apartment, and Rosemary and Guy get back to their apartment. They kind of joke about them being this old couple. They're a little bit much, and they constantly start showing up around the house nonstop, and they're really strange, but they become a very big part of their lives. And through all this, Rosemary eventually becomes pregnant. The older couple start telling Rosemary and Guy where Rosemary should go to the doctor, how Rosemary should be treated, how she should live her day-to-day life, and Guy essentially complies with all of it. And all these strange things start happening when Rosemary is pregnant, and the entirety of the film is us watching Rosemary go through these very strange circumstances during her pregnancy. So as I said, this movie is a classic for a reason. I'll start with the visuals. The cinematography in this movie is spectacular. The attention to detail, and not only the framing of every single shot, but the editing in this movie is just absolutely fantastic. This movie is an anxiety-inducing nightmare, and starting from the very beginning, it seems very inviting, and then there's little bits of information conveyed to you that start to make the film unsettling and uncomfortable, and the visual style really helps with that, and the editing gets more chaotic as the film goes forward. There's a lot more handheld shots towards the end of the film that really kind of ground us with the character and really create a great sense of space and nausea almost that Rosemary is going through while she's questioning essentially everything that's going on around her. I love the musical choices and the sound design in this movie as well. It's really easy to put yourself in the situation of our lead character because of everything involved with the visuals and the sound design. It really feels dreamlike in moments and nightmarish in others. And I really think that the visual style cannot be complimented enough in this film. The performances in this movie are all really good. I think Mia Farrow is really great in this movie. She does a fantastic job, especially when her health starts to decline in the middle of the movie and we kind of see the bags under her eyes and the way that she interacts with people. Like watching her slow and steady decline into madness, essentially questioning, like, what are these people doing to me? Are these people involved in me not feeling well? Why do they not want me to go to the doctor that I want to go to? And I think that her performance is exceptional. Ruth Gordon, who plays Minnie, is a nutcase in this movie. She does such a phenomenal job playing the overbearing neighbor. Everyone in this movie, John Cassavetes is fantastic. Like everyone in this film delivers an A+ performance for most of the movie. And my favorite part about this film is, especially speaking on who Roman Polanski is as a person and the negative things that he's done in his life, it's really kind of surprising just how much of a movie this is centered around feminism and about how women are treated negatively, and just how this movie looks at the pressures put on women when they get pregnant and how they are essentially not thought of as a human being in that moment. It's like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And it's like the decision is being completely and totally stripped away from the women, which is really poignant to the society we live in now, with how many states are refusing to allow women access to their own bodily autonomy. And this movie was really thoughtful. The entire time I was watching it, I was just surprised at how many different issues surrounding women and women's personal choice that this film was able to convey. And it's a horror movie. I mean, I loved seeing how thoughtful it was. And you could definitely see the influence that this film has had on tons of movies that have come out over the past several years. 100%. Just not only in just the visual style, but thematically as well. When it comes to issues with this movie feels dated in moments, and I'm not saying like that through the visual style or anything, but a lot of it's the dialogue. I talked about this in my Night of the Hunter review recently, where like there's this old stage play type of acting that works in certain situations and doesn't work in others. As much as I like a lot of Mia Farrow's performance in this movie, there are a couple of moments where her dialogue, because it feels very stage play, comes across as kind of corny. And moments where it's supposed to be very hard hitting and disturbing, it doesn't feel authentic. And especially like Ruth Gordon and her husband, there's some moments where it's so kind of campy and ridiculous that the fear and the overwhelming sense of anxiety you're supposed to get from these characters doesn't always seep through. And I felt that way through a lot of this movie because of how dated some of the performances felt. And like I said, when I talked about Night of the Hunter, it doesn't necessarily make a movie bad when it's dated, but there are certain elements of something feeling dated when it comes to the performances that can really kind of pull me out of it as a viewer. And there were some moments, especially like in the scene where Mia Farrow believes that she's been assaulted, the way that her dialogue is delivered, it was just really unnatural and not like someone who was in a genuine state of shock. And I don't know, like for me, some of those moments, especially the more serious moments, I just wish that the performance was a little bit more believable. But I do think, especially what she goes through in the second half of the film and how much of a struggle that she's been through, and you can kind of see it in her face and her bodily movements, it's very impressive. I just wish it was consistent through the entire 2-hour runtime of the movie. And that's really my biggest complaint with the film, is just how like dated some of the performance elements are, and as far as like the dialogue delivery and some of the verbiage that's used. But aside from that, I had a really great time watching this movie. I think it's remarkably made. It's sad that the movie is made by such a terrible human being, but I 100% understand why this movie is in the pinnacle of some of the best horror movies ever made. And I feel like in rewatching it, my appreciation for it over the years will probably grow. So have you seen Rosemary's Baby? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastic. It is a classic for a reason. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.